Hey, Dr. Laura Dabney here at the last video of our series, What to Do If You Think You're Drinking Too Much. What makes you an alcoholic? When should you try to cut back? What makes it a problem? All the definitions like that were talked about in the first video. In the second video, I talked about what doesn't work if you are trying to cut back on your drinking. So the next video, which was the last video, was what does work if you're trying to cut back on your drinking. In this video, I'd like to give you a few more tips and understanding. So I've learned over the 20 years I've been helping people with this is that alcohol is a numbing agent, right? So it numbs a certain emotion. If you're numbing an emotion, on some level you feel you can't face this emotion head on. So I often ask people to give this some serious consideration, either journal or do voice memos of when you drink and see if you can figure out what that emotion is. What is the emotion you're feeling the 15, 30 minutes before you decide to reach for that drink? I'll tell you what they usually are. There are three. Typically, it's either neediness, sadness, or anger. These are the three emotions that people get really scared about, typically from how they grew up and the patterns of how their family dealt with these emotions. But if you have a certain, when I say, how do you deal with your neediness or anger or sadness, and you do a little cringe, that might be the emotion you're covering up with alcohol. The key for you, of course, is going to be to cut back on your alcohol a little bit to prove to yourself that you can deal with these emotions, or to add something else, another kind of soothing that's not also hurting you, another soothing agent to help you with those emotions. Okay. The other key piece with alcohol when you're trying to cut back is people feel deprived. Nobody likes to feel deprived. So it's going to be key for you to maybe first take care of all the other deprivations in your life. I'm actually working with a woman now who has realized, coming to therapy, that she's all these areas where she feels deprived. She went out of her way to suffer through them, thinking this was some kind of a badge of honor, but she learned it's not. So there's a lot of areas in her life, her sex life, her job, these things were not fulfilling. And she's made great strides in changing those. And now she's ready to cut back on her alcohol use, right? That was a sort of a security blanket. But if you get rid of those constant, chronic threats to your well-being, then you don't have that urge as much. And it was much easier for her to cut back on her use once that was resolved. Lastly, I would like to say that I'd like you to consider getting to know AA. I talked before about going to AA doesn't mean you're an alcoholic. You can gain a lot from it. But what I'm talking about learning about it is because it does exactly the things we talked about that would help and doesn't do the things that we said wouldn't help. In other words, it has a system in place that's successful. Why not copy it? Even if you don't go, try to copy it. There's no shame, there's support. The people go at their own pace, in their own way. In fact, when Bill W., the founder, one of the founders, went to encourage someone to come into AA, he brought their favorite drink with him. Now, that's symbolically not a sign of, I am not judging you, I accept who you are and where you are and when you're ready to get help. That's the kind of support you need to be to yourself or train those around you to be for you. As always, I wish you all the best in this endeavor, and always here to help, 757-340-8800.